Okay, everyone, here's an idea get around in my head, and I figured it was about time to just record something on it. And before we start recording anything on it, let me just kind of remove all credibility on the topic as well. Number one, I don't know if I actually believe that the running back dead zone is dead, but I thought it was a cool idea, and I thought it was an original idea. And so let me remove that second piece of credibility here. It's not an original idea at all. If we want to pull up an article all the way back from 2024 on Establish the Run, they have the death of the running back dead zone. Probably a better title as well, by the way. So I don't know if I agree with it, but either way, I think it's good to think about and just figure out if there's anything that you can do with the information, or maybe not. Just work with your strategy. So if we go through this article, they did give a history of the running back dead zone right here. And it defined the running back dead zone as rounds 3 through 6, basically. And if we read into this a little further, it says that it's done from a pretty simple concept that running back scoring is relatively flat from rounds 3 or 4 through the end of the single digit rounds, while wide receiver scoring remains high through the first 5 or 6 rounds before falling off dramatically. I don't know if either of those points are true anymore. I, in fact, just pulled up the underdog rankings. Not saying this is perfect, but the underdog rankings have their ADP and their projected points. And you can sort it by running back and wide receivers. So I think it's a simple way to look at things here. And if we go down to round to pick like 25 or so, or the beginning of round 3, basically. Again, what are we looking for? We're looking for running back scoring is relatively flat all the way through the end of the single digit rounds. So we're talking like pick 108 or something like that, while wide receiver scoring remains high through the first 5 or 6 rounds before falling off dramatically. So let's first look at the running backs and see if it's flat throughout the whole entire thing. And if we go here, we can see that we're all the way up at 193 projected points. And in fact, if you look at the wide receivers around this time, they're actually even, the same, a little bit less actually, 188, 179, 170s, 180s. And we got running backs in the 190s, 200s, 190s. So in fact, the running backs are projected higher up here. As we continue to go down, we have more 190s, 180s. We're now falling into the 160s here for some of the wide receivers. 180s, 170s. Again, we're not going to, none of this is going to be like perfect as far as like every single value is higher than is lower than the previous one. Still 180s for running back here as we go into the pick 43. That's in the 4th round. No, a 3rd round. $160s, 150s, and then 160s for wide receivers, 170s. So really, as we're looking at this, it kind of looks like the players are, for the most part, kind of just in order. Oh yeah, here are the 180s and 190s wide receivers and running backs. Here are the 170s and 160s wide receivers and running backs. I'm not seeing anything as far as like this dramatic drop that we're talking about. What were those words exactly they're saying? Relatively flat, sorry, for the running backs, and the dramatic drop is for the wide receivers. So I'm not seeing a dramatic drop so far. What that says through the first 5 or 6 rounds. So the first 5 or 6 rounds would basically be 72 picks or so. And so if we go down here, we're at the 150s, 140s, 150s, 160s. And then you do see actually, okay, so you do see here 120s, 130s, 140s, 140s. 130s, 140s. So I'm not seeing this dramatic drop that we're talking about. It kind of looked like it at first, but you can see it's essentially stabilized. We got tons of 120s and 130s as we keep on going down here. Now into the 10th round, we still have 130s as projection, 120s all the way down here at 132. So I don't see a dramatic drop off in running backs. And then what were we saying about the sorry, dramatic drop off in wide receivers? And then do we see it just relatively flat from rounds 3 through 4 through the end of the single digit rounds? So single digit rounds, again, that'd be like pick 108. We're talking 110, 130, 1. So this is again not going to be perfect order based on kind of how the community feels about these players and what's going to happen and how they expect those projections to change. 130, 140, 150, 130, 180. 160, 160, 170. So again, as we're just going up here, you just kind of see everything slowly creep up and people are kind of slotted in where it makes sense, partially based on projection and then partially based on how they expect that projection to change over time. I'm not really seeing a flatness to the running backs. I'm also not seeing a dramatic drop in wide receivers. There's my argument why the running back dead zone is no longer a thing. Down here it says the gap between running backs and wide receivers was smaller, around 7 to 10, indicating that there was time to load up on runners. I think we established, I don't know how much of a gap there is. It seems again like the players are kind of slotted in. A lot of it's based on the projections. There's certain players that are higher or lower, again, based on how we expect those projections to shift or the risk within those projections. But I'm not really seeing what they're describing in any of this. Now, the other way that you might think about the dead zone is you think about the player that is probably the person that you think of when you think of the dead zone, and that's Mike Davis. So who's that player that essentially just was expected to get volume and that was going to carry their um, their season? And that's when he moved to Atlanta here in 2021. He had a decent time in Carolina the year before that on only a couple games started, or more than a couple, but not a full season of starts. And then he moved to Atlanta, and people expected big things because there was no one else in Atlanta that could carry the ball. It had to be Mike Davis. And then it ended up not being him, right? Only 503 yards rushing and only how many yards receiving? 259 yards receiving. And so he was a bust, basically. And so are there players in this year that kind of fall into this type of category, being drafted in those first 6 rounds, 3 to 6, that really don't have much past history at all, maybe don't have much athletic ability as far as like high extreme RAS. Mike Davis had, middling to low RAS scores, and also no like extreme performances before as far as like showing that he can do it. And if we go here and look at how the draft is going right now, if we start looking at in round 3, Bucky Irving's done it, is a rookie, went through injuries this year. Not the most athletic, but he has some skills and traits that you're really excited for. Josh Jacobs has done it multiple times. Kenneth Walker has shown he has had the ability when he has the opportunity. Breece Hall, athletic freak, basically. I know there's all these players are athletic freaks, but very athletic and has shown he can do it. Kyren Williams Kyren Williams and Bucky are maybe the players that are a little bit the closest to him. But again, Kyron Williams has been consistently doing it for a couple of years now. And the only reason he's at the back end of the third is because of the risk that people think there is in Kyron Williams. Will he be able to do it again, or will this be the year that the Rams finally give more of the backfield to Blake Corum? Travis Etienne, um, high draft capital, just doesn't have a team yet. Going to the fourth round here, we only have TreVeyon Henderson, who's a second round pick, so high draft capital. He's kind of like slightly less athletic Jahmyr Gibbs, I think is what people were comparing him to for the most part. So he's got an athletic profile. And when Rhamondre Stevenson wasn't on the field, TreVeyon Henderson had a couple really good games. Then we get here to the fifth round. We got Cam Skattebo, who did it until he broke his ankle. Judkins, who again did it until he broke his leg. RJ Harvey, who fourth round pick, a little bit older, but he has the backfield to himself right now. And then DeAndre Swift, who he's only 27 and he's done it multiple years. And so the closest I'd say maybe is the RJ Harvey pick right here is the closest to what might be a Mike Davis. RJ Harvey is more athletic. He's more athletic, but why is he similar to Mike Davis? Maybe it's because we're relying on projectable volume because there's no one else in the backfield at this exact moment. And he's playing on a team where one of the risks, though, is on that team, is there ever projectable volume? And I think some people would argue that there isn't. Either way, I think what we're seeing here is that the players that are in the sixth round, no running backs in the sixth round at all. So I think what we're seeing here is essentially there isn't anyone exactly like Mike Davis. Or if you wanted to argue it, there's one player kind of like Mike Davis, but there aren't a bunch of them. So if there's not a bunch of them, again, is the running back dead zone dead? In this video, I think we're going to say, yes, the running back dead zone is dead, but I reserve the right to very quickly throw another video out there that maybe says the running back dead zone is alive and thriving. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but maybe it will. What do we need to work out for if the running back dead zone isn't a thing anymore and we can't take advantage of that? I think we need to then think about our construction. If we go running back heavy early, for example, this team right here, and this is just players slotted in by ADP, but let's say, for example, someone takes Christian McCaffrey and then Breece Hall, and now in the fifth round, RJ Harvey's the best available based on ADP. I do think that you pass on RJ Harvey. You probably even pass on Skattebo and Judkins, and you say, okay, I have two running backs already. I don't want to grab another one right now at cost. I want to see if I can get someone of more value and fill out my other positions. I take, one of these wide receivers that are available or something like that. And then I can try to play a get unique game as well as a roster construction game. When it comes back around to me in the sixth round, if someone like RJ Harvey's now available in the sixth round, I can then reevaluate and go, okay, now it's kind of unique because it's kind of like I got two fifth round picks instead of a fifth and a sixth round pick. And so I can elect to do that or not. Either way is okay. But I think that's what you want to do. You want to be much more selective when you grab these early running backs. If we're taking someone like RJ Harvey, Cam Skattebo, Judkins, after grabbing multiple running backs, we're not opening up those more exciting opportunities. We're not opening up those exciting opportunities right now, and we're also not giving ourselves as many opportunities for value even later on also. It's kind of saying the same thing twice, but roster construction, I guess, if you want to put it into 2 words. So there's my argument why the red zone is dead. Kind of thought out. Kind of, if you say it's not, I wouldn't argue with you. But that's what I got for today. I'll think about it more, maybe post another. See you on the next one. Peace.